A man had captured a fire phoenix and chained it in heavy iron shackles. He was planning to hand the phoenix over to a cruel king in exchange for a huge reward. But suddenly, tears began falling from the phoenix's eyes. Seeing the creature suffering, the man felt pity for it. Unable to watch its pain any longer, he removed the chains and set it free. The moment the phoenix was freed, it spread its blazing wings across the open sky and flew high above the clouds. Before leaving, it dropped one of its glowing golden feathers beside the man as a sign of gratitude. The feather was magical, shining brightly with fire and gold. The next day, the man was arrested because he had failed to bring the phoenix to the king. The king had announced a cruel rule. Whoever captured the phoenix would receive mountains of gold, but anyone who returned empty-handed would face death. Desperate to save himself, the man pulled out the phoenix feather and tried to prove that he had really met the creature. But the feather had gone cold and dry, looking nothing more than an old leaf. The villagers laughed at him, and the king sentenced him to death. As the executioner prepared to cut off the man's head, the feather suddenly burst into flames again. At the same moment, the phoenix returned from the sky. Its radiant light was so powerful that the entire village glowed like daylight. The phoenix had sensed that the man's life was in danger. Terrified, the king immediately ordered the man to be released. In the eyes of the villagers, the man became a hero and a savior. But the king grew even more jealous of him. Soon after, the king gave the man another impossible challenge. He ordered him to climb the tallest mountain in the world and awaken a sleeping princess named Snow White. No one had ever succeeded, and nobody had ever returned alive from that dangerous journey. But the king did not know one thing. The man owned a flying donkey. Riding the magical donkey, the man quickly reached the icy mountain peak. In front of a giant wall of ice, the golden feather began glowing once again. Suddenly, it flew into the frozen wall, melting the entire barrier in seconds. Torrents of freezing water rushed down the mountain, and the donkey was swept away before becoming trapped in solid ice. Even the man's boots froze to the ground. He removed them carefully and stepped into a magnificent frozen palace. Inside, he discovered a beautiful princess sleeping for hundreds of years. Using the magical feather, he awakened her from her endless sleep. But there was one problem. The princess was so beautiful that the man began to fall in love with her. Still, he placed the princess on his donkey and returned to the kingdom. When he presented Snow White to the king immediately asked her to marry him. But the princess refused. She said she would never marry anyone until her precious ring, which had fallen into the ocean long ago, was returned to her. Once again, the king ordered the man to complete the impossible task. The next day, the man flew toward the sea on his magical donkey. There, he discovered a gigantic whale chained down so tightly that it could not even move. Compared to the enormous creature, the man looked as small as an ant. Feeling sorry for the whale, the man decided to free it. Suddenly, he sneezed, and at that exact moment, he came up with an idea. Riding his flying donkey, he flew directly into the whale's nose. Inside, the donkey rapidly flapped its powerful wings, causing an unbearable tickling sensation. The whale began coughing violently. As it coughed harder and harder, its mouth opened wide, snapping all the chains wrapped around its body. Finally, the whale let out a massive sneeze, blasting both the man and the donkey back outside. At the same time, dozens of trapped ships came flying out of the whale's mouth. The whale was finally free and disappeared back into the deep ocean forever. Moments later, a crab crawled toward the man carrying a magical ring. It was the princess's lost ring, a gift from the grateful whale. That very night, the man secretly entered the princess's chamber and offered her the ring, along with a proposal of marriage. But before she could answer, the king's commander smashed open the door and ruined everything. The man was arrested once again and thrown into a dark prison. The next morning, the cruel king ordered a giant cauldron filled with boiling milk to be prepared. Without mercy, the king pushed the man straight into the boiling liquid. Next part, comment below.